Hi there, my name is Steve LaWarre. I'm the Vice President of Horticulture here at Meijer Gardens and Sculpture Park. And we are sitting in the train room. And this is the area that supports the railway garden. And you're familiar with the railway garden. It's one of the real popular spots to visit when you come here for the University of Michigan Health West Christmas and holiday traditions. And so the train room. So let's talk a little bit about these trains. All of the trains that you see here behind me are what's referred to as G scale. And that's about a 1 to 30 scale as far as rail. It's called garden scale. And I've got a number of our engines here. A lot of people are surprised how much rolling stock and engines we have. And these trains run about 10 hours a day, and we switch out the engines every few days, as well as the cars every few days, so that we keep everything fresh, they can be maintained, and we can do what needs to be done to make sure that everything runs the way it's supposed to. So I'd like to take a look at the engines first. And we have a number of different types of engines that we feature. And this engine that I'm going to look at first is a GP30, and it's a diesel locomotive. So this is the bottom of this engine, and it's got, you know, these dual sets of wheels here. And this is powered by both of these trucks. And I've got a piece that's taken off. So this is a drive unit, and you can see the motor here on top, this electric motor here on top, which drives all four of those wheels. And then this sits underneath here on both sides. These are the electrical pickups. So those actually drag along the track, and that's how the engine picks up the electricity needed to power it. These engines also have sound, and you can see a speaker here. And I've had people ask how the sound works, because if you watch these engines as they run through the garden, sometimes it'll have the bells that go off, the crossing bells. Sometimes it blows the horn, and then it's got great sounds of, you know, idling up and idling back down again, and the chugging of the diesel engines. And that all comes through this speaker here in the bottom of the train. And there's a company that we work with right in Michigan here, and that company is called Phoenix Sound, and they actually record real train noises. And those sounds are stored in a sound card inside here. And then there's a small magnetic pickup that you can see on either side of this train. There's a magnet that sits inside of the track, and if that magnet is facing one direction, it'll trigger the left side of the train, which is the bell, and if it is turned around to the other side, it'll trigger the other side, which ends up being the whistle. So when that train goes from room to room, or when it goes around corners and makes those special sounds are being triggered by magnets that are on the track, and those magnets then trigger these pickups as the train runs over the top of it. So that's the secret to how the train makes the different noises in different parts of the display. These engines are quite large. They're really pretty heavy, and they're really pretty powerful. They don't have any problem pulling a number of the rolling stock. You know, we typically hook up 5 to 6 cars at once, because it's since they run for so long, it helps us avoid any disconnects and that kind of thing. But these could very easily pull quite a few more cars than that. So let's talk about the rolling stock next, which is the cars that the engine pulls. So basically, any non-powered car, anything that's not the engine, is called rolling stock. And we've got a lot of great examples of rolling stock here. And some of them are specific to a certain train line throughout North America, and some of them are specific to, even things that you'd find in Michigan. Dow Chemical is originally a Michigan company, so that's a lot of fun. We've got a box car here that's labeled with the Great Lakes Brewing Company and the Edmund Fitzgerald, which was one of the vessels that sailed on the Great Lakes. So lots of fun rolling stock. Here's another one behind me that talks about Gerber baby food, and Gerber, of course, is also a Michigan company. But these box cars are very, very, all the rolling stock is very realistic. Many of them have real working doorways that open and close with details that are visible on the inside of these cars. So lots of great detail that you'll see in this rolling stock. There are the brake valves, there's ladders, lots of great detail in the writing. So great pieces of detail on these. On the bottoms of them, again, you'll see that there's two trucks on either side. The engine pulls these, so these are non-powered. They just roll very easily across the tracks. And as I mentioned, there's all kinds of different types of rolling stock. There's automobile carriers, there's your box cars, there's your chemical tankers, and then there's always a caboose that we end up putting on the end. And if you look at modern trains, oftentimes the caboose isn't necessary as much as it used to be. But the caboose, historically, has been a really important piece for long travel trains, especially. They would have a cabin for a crew to reside in that back caboose, and then they would also have additional brakes that would oftentimes be in the back caboose. And the cabooses are powered, so again, they pick up power through the trucks. They pick up power through the wheels, and you can see the wires that are coming off of those rear trucks. So the power would come up through the track, through the wheels, and then the reason why these are powered is because they've got a number of lights and things inside, so that especially if you look at these trains in the evening, they will have lights that'll be in the caboose, and those lights are powered by the track through the wheels. So there's little switches in the bottom, so we can have all the lights on, all the lights off, or just the rear-facing lights. So that is a caboose. And the next thing I want to talk about is the trolleys that you'll see in the garden. So the main train runs overhead in the garden, and we have 3 different trolleys that run down below. And I've got a couple of examples of the trolleys. And the trolleys, we have a couple different varieties. The ones that we really like to use a lot are these little Mack trolleys. And these would typically be little pulling or pushing units. You'd see something like this in the real world in a rail yard, for example, where individual rolling stock needs to be moved around and connected to from train to train, for example. But these guys just have a single drive unit on the bottom. And again, they pick up power through those wheels. And there's a motor underneath this, very similar to the ones that I showed you for the engines. And this unit just moves back and forth on the trolley tracks. And so that is an example of one of the trolleys. You can see this color here, and then we've also got a couple different colors, but they all are very similar in the way that they operate. Some of them have these connections that are on top of the engine here. This would typically flip up. This would have originally connected to an overhead wire if a train would have gotten power from overhead wires, like some of the trolleys that you may have seen pictures of or seen in some of our cities in the past. In fact, Grand Rapids had a trolley system at one point in downtown Grand Rapids. So those are our trolleys. So that is the train office and some of the behind-the-scenes things that we've got going on here to help support the railway garden here at Frederick Meijer Gardens and Sculpture Park. So I hope you enjoyed that, and hope to see you here visiting the University of Michigan Health West Christmas and Holiday Traditions.